I'm going to call the July 9th, 2026 O'Fallon City Council Workshop to order. Roll call, Cotton.
Mayor Hennessy.
Present.
Councilmember Wexler.
He's excused.
Councilmember Wilcox.
Present.
Councilmember Boyer.
Present.
Councilmember Yates.
Present.
Councilmember Cascella.
Present.
Councilmember Link.
Present.
Councilmember Taylor.
She's excused.
Councilmember Spencer.
Present.
Councilmember Cook. Present. And Councilmember Palmer.
He's excused. All right, folks, you have an agenda in front of you. What's the pleasure?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to move item number 6 up to item number 2 to ensure we have ample time to discuss the moratorium.
Second. Have a motion to move item 6 to item 2, so this will be the first item.
Right after
Well,
the
workshop
approval of the minutes, yep.
I have a motion by Councilman Link to move 6 to number 2, then follow that on past. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Yates. Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Do I have approval of the amended agenda? Motion by Councilman Cook, second.
Link.
Second by Councilman Link. Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Anything on the agenda that you folks want to talk about? Seeing none. Need a motion and a second to approve the City Council Workshop meeting minutes of June 25th, 2026.
Wilcox.
Spencer.
Motion by Councilman Wilcox. Was that Spencer? Second by Councilwoman Spencer. Questions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Brings us to workshop discussion items, and this is the proposed moratorium on multifamily residential development. Mr. Link.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, so what you all have in front of you are a few sheets. You have a draft right now of the ordinance. There's a supplement to it. It's titled the Proposed Multifamily Housing Moratorium 12-Month Plan Framework. That is intended to basically work as a more detailed supplement to Section 2 of the ordinance. And then there was also some discussion about a potential amendment to the bill as written in regards to senior housing. So those are the three materials that you have in front of you. As for the bill itself, the first three sections really are the ones that have the meat, I'll say, of the bill. So Section 1 is basically defining what would be impacted by the moratorium, and that would be multifamily living units in which there are 5 or more living units per structure. Section 2 is basically saying what are we doing during the moratorium, and then Section 3 is the duration, which is proposed to be 12 months.
Okay.
I'm happy to answer questions, concerns, have dialogue on it.
Mr. Cascella.
Thank you, Mayor. Doug, I appreciate the work you put into this and bringing the objectives with it rather than just doing the blanket ban. My concern and my biggest concern, I've prepared a long list of things to talk about, but are the properties that are already zoned mixed use in R4. Those people invested in those properties based on the zoning that they are. And I think that anything that is currently zoned for multifamily should be left alone. How big do we want government to be where we're telling people that own property that's zoned R4 and then go to tell them, oh, by the way, the property that you invested a considerable amount of money in is now worthless because we're not allowing apartments. So I think that it needs to be amended. I could probably get behind it if a few other things are addressed, but I think the mixed use and the R4 stuff that is already zoned that way and zoned appropriately and has property owners, I think we have to consider their property rights as well.
Okay, if I may respond to that, Mayor. All right, that is a great point. Steve, I'll just call you up here. I think other things to consider, though, is, we don't have a lot of R4 in O'Fallon, but we have a lot of residents. And it was one of the big concerns that a lot of people brought up to me, especially from January through April when I was knocking doors. And so, I get it. There's probably going to be no perfect solution. But when I, take that mental weighted average in my head of, who has the loudest voice and who's bringing up the most concerns, it's the residents. And, R4, I think right now the density limits are 14 per acre. I don't think we're impinging on that too much, even if you limit it to, let's say, 4 living units per structure. And, if they want to build something that's 5 or more, right now with this moratorium, all they'd have to do is wait 12 months and then it would be expired. So if they have an immediate need to build there, you could certainly do so if it's 4 living units or less per structure. If they wanted a little bit more dense, there'd basically be a 12-month delay on that.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I understand knocking doors. You know that I'm also Ward 3. We are the highest median income in the city of O'Fallon is in Ward 3, and it's virtually all brand new developments. These are not the people looking for apartments. These are not the people that are considering an apartment anytime soon. We don't have a very high age demographic in our area that may be wanting to downsize or is getting tired of taking care of a yard. So basing that conclusion of a moratorium from knocking on doors in Ward 3, I don't think is very substantial of any kind of data for limiting apartments. And another thing that I really think we need to kind of talk about is apartments are workforce housing. So they're the teachers and police officers and healthcare personnel, restaurant staff, retail staff, tradespeople, even young professionals that are just starting in their career. The workforce lives in apartments until they're settled and can afford to buy a home. And with the way home prices are, I think a blanket ban on doing something like that just really limits keeping young generations here. Like myself, I lived in an apartment. I could have purchased a home in Lincoln County or Warren County right out of college. I could afford those, but I wanted to stay here. So I stayed in an apartment until I had enough money for the down payment. And just to limit something based on a little bit of feedback from a very loud, limited number of people, I think is reckless. It's irresponsible. Look at Chesterfield, just to the east of us. They don't have workforce living quarters or living area. Buffalo Wild Wings, Rock and Brew, Red Robin, Hardee's, Bar Louie, Babbo's, Longhorn, Wendy's, all closed. And it's not because there's not a need for them or a demand. Drive through the valley, it's busy as ever. It's always busy. Those restaurants were always packed. And the reason they closed is because they don't have workforce. And I think it's just reckless to start axing off an entire living segment because we want to study it. You want to study infrastructure or school systems or public safety or fix those systems, but just blanket banning something I don't think is a great idea.
I would not consider this a blanket ban. It is 5 units and higher. It's higher density. It doesn't touch R1. It doesn't touch R2. It doesn't touch anything where there are 4 units, or less per living structure. So, and that was intentional with the bill language. I wanted this to be a bit more surgical. There's other things that maybe we need to consider too, which would be the abuse of PUDs out here. So I think we start with what's most impactful, and that's high density residential.
Ms. Spencer?
So I think the purpose of this moratorium is not to stop development, right? It's to provide the city with adequate time to evaluate whether our current policies, infrastructure, and public services can sustainably support additional multi-family housing before we approve new projects. And Steve does have a good point, right? Our younger generation, they are looking for and having that necessity to live in apartments. But the thing that we're seeing going up around here are these so-called luxury apartments where a 2-bedroom, even a 1-bedroom, depending on when you bought your house, is more than my mortgage. So what we're saying is you can't buy a house here, you can't afford an apartment here, and then you have those instances where everything closes because the people who aren't making, you know, 60, 70, $80,000 higher incomes are kind of being forced out of the area a little bit. But I think it's important to note that these apartments that are going in here are a 2-bedroom, a 3-bedroom apartment out here is $3,000 a month. I know my mortgage isn't $3,000 a month. I don't know how many people who are sitting here tonight pay more or less than that, but if you're going to make an apartment $3,000 a month, it makes more sense to me to maybe figure out how to help younger people buy houses instead. And I don't think that making this pause and saying let's take a minute is the end-all be-all. It's saying we want to take our time and we want to evaluate everything as a whole. So when we do develop, we're doing it responsibly, we're doing it appropriately. There's an end game to discuss other issues that need to be discussed before we have this influx of all these multifamily units.
Mr. Boyer?
What's stopping us from doing this research without the moratorium?
If I could respond to that. I think it's two things. It's to be fair to the residents, to acknowledge that overdevelopment is an issue out here. And two, I think it's fair to developers. Because if they just come in here and we don't have a moratorium in place and they apply for, you know, an apartment that's, you know, 20 units under one roof and they get denied, they put in some calories to put that plan together. So if we have a moratorium in place, it signals to them that, hey, we're open for business, keep it lower density, keep it 4 units or less per structure, put your calories towards that. So I think it's fair for both sides to basically provide that sort of notice with where our intentions are moving.
Scott?
So Doug, have you done research on the occupancy rate of our current apartments that we have? And then my other two questions, when's the last time we have approved a new apartment complex and how many are currently under construction?
Yeah, those are all great questions. I don't know, I'll actually probably defer this to staff. I don't know if they did that research last November when I think a moratorium was proposed, so they may have those numbers. I know St. Charles County has done one in the last 18 months, and they passed a moratorium on their apartments 2 weeks ago.
David, do you remember when the last apartments that we approved? I know we approved the ones for the across from the Cambria Hotel down at Caledonia. That was one. We had the ones at O'Fallon Road and Highway K, but that was withdrawn, and now they're, I want to say duplexes?
Those are townhomes. Those might be 5, there might be some 5 attached units in there, but those aren't, that was originally approved as apartments. That's Pheasant Grove is what you're talking about.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not sure if there's 5-unit buildings in there off the top of my head. I'll have to check, but.
I think those are just townhomes.
They're townhomes, yeah. Mm-hmm. But I'm looking at my list. I did have this in my PowerPoint from January. We had approved 2025, looks like we approved Caledonia Flats. 24-25, we approved Pinewood Expansion. That's up off of Tom Ginnever.
Mm-hmm.
And I just heard that's up for sale. Like that might have, and their plan just expired. So I'm not sure what's the status on that one. I did call the engineer on that probably a month ago, and they had not heard from the developer. So
Because that was just the extension
that was just
of
30.
of Pinewood.
That was just the 30-unit addition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I have one that's been going on since 2018, Arrive. That's up at Homefield and T.R. Hughes. They're in for permit right now. They've been working on construction plans. That's got 162 units. Of course, they've been going back. We've approved plans for that. It's expired. It's come back. I think last time you told the mayor that was their last extension.
They have until August to.
Yeah. So, and we've got a few. We've got one under construction now, Thornwood, which is right by the Justice Center. Then we got a couple senior projects.
Okay.
Do we know our occupancy rate on our apartments that are currently done?
This topic came up at a meeting from a developer. We were told, it's hard for us to to know it as a city. But we were told by a developer it's between 85 and 90%. That is something when we do rental occupancy permits, that is something we could ask the question as we're doing that, but right now, that's not a number that I know other than just what we were told.
Another clarifying remark on this too. So not to confuse the moratorium as affecting current units or already developed units. They're obviously still free to rent. And if it's already been, applied for and approved by the city, those are, basically grandfathered in. They're not impacted.
Okay. Stephen?
Thank you, Mayor. One other point that I just really want to bring up is the history of moratoriums and the investor uncertainty. It's even close to the city of O'Fallon back, I don't remember if it was 2008, we had a moratorium.
7 and 8.
We watched commercial opportunities slip away because of investor uncertainty. Cities are competing for businesses that are going to bring in tax generation, and a moratorium like this, I think, just creates too much uncertainty, too much unintended consequence to even consider, especially, we talk about things like infrastructure, the things that we want to improve, and that is sales tax funded. Just creating the investor uncertainty, I don't think is a good idea, and that's exactly what moratoriums do. They show that a city is closed for business, not open for business.
And I think it's quite the contrary. We're still open for everything except multifamily living units in which there are 5 or more living units per structure. And for the time period cited, 2007 to 2008, I think that was the beginning of the housing crisis. So I imagine some of those outcomes are confounded with a much larger event that took place.
But you've set a precedent that you'll just change the rules when you don't like them. And that's uncertainty to anyone that's looking at investing in a community. What's next? Is it R2 and R3? No, we're going to put a moratorium on those. How big a government are we going to become? Are we going to stop allowing car washes? Or are we going to stop allowing banks? Are we going to stop allowing quick service restaurants? These are all things that you're opening a door to. What kind of precedent are you setting? I just don't think this is good. We have the discretion to approve projects based on their own merit, based on their own design, based on their own use. We don't need a moratorium to stop that. We can make those decisions up here. What you're doing is making a single one-size-fits-all approach rather than having hard conversations and doing the hard work that it takes to negotiate these types of projects. I think this is cowardly at best.
Once again, I think it's fair for both sides, and it's a lot better, I think, that if you set a policy for a moratorium, you're already basically telling developers and saying, well, in this case, if you're going to make a development and keep it to 5 units or less per structure, rather than them coming up here, putting in the calories ahead of time, doing all the building and site plans and then getting a no. I think if you communicate that in advance, once again, it's more fair for the developer, and it acknowledges our overdevelopment problem here in O'Fallon and probably the great St. Charles County area, as was evident in the April election.
Go ahead, Scott.
I would be more in favor of rezoning some of the properties that are currently zoned for apartments than a moratorium. There's plenty of areas, I think, that are zoned that could be used for other purposes, single family, possibly commercial, instead of a moratorium. That's my thoughts.
Okay. I'll give you my thought. I don't like the moratorium. To me, I'm going to agree with Councilman Boyer that I think we can get this work done without the moratorium. I think the elected officials and staff can get together and go over all your points, Doug. To me, I think we can do this. And to Mr. Cascella's point, if we're not shutting anything down. To me, we're going to look at it, and if it comes back through P&Z and staff and this elected officials that we need to change something, we change the ordinance. All right? But I think we can do this without putting a moratorium on. I think we can get through this process, whether it takes 2 months or 3 months. And I can tell you, we have nothing coming up on the P&Z for apartments anyway. Not that I know of, not for the August meeting or not even the September meeting. So to me, it's, I think we can get this, and if we need something changed in the ordinance of the R4 or the R3 that we need to change, I think we can do that before we put a moratorium on. I'm just giving you my thoughts.
Yep, and I totally respect the point of view, Mayor. I think I'm keeping my foot down on the bill nonetheless. And, if there's none in the pipeline for the next 2 months, then it's effectively a 10-month moratorium. So,
Okay. Debbie?
Thank you. I would have loved to had a moratorium years ago when all these apartments were coming in, and I've been on city council. Some of the pieces of property that are currently zoned R3 and R4, I do have concerns with. The driving range is a perfect example. If somebody comes along and they want to build on, and it's zoned R3, it's hard for us to say no. As we find out, we get lawsuits. We have one over on Highway P that's zoned R3 that you and I are both in agreement. We don't want to see apartments go there. So I wouldn't mind I would like to see a moratorium. I'm for it. Maybe a year's too long, maybe 6 months, like the county did. And then maybe in the meantime, during that time, we can look at rezoning some of these pieces of property that we know is not a good fit. Maybe 30 years ago, 20 years ago, that zoning was correct for that area, but as development has come around, that's no longer a good fit. So, maybe we can find a compromise, do something like St. Charles County, a 6-month, and then we can also be addressing the rezoning of some of the properties.
yeah, I'm certainly open to that. We didn't talk a lot about it in detail. It's kind of come up in debate here. But Section 2 of that basically said, during this moratorium, we have a lot of objectives we want to accomplish. I'll just quickly go through the first two, and then I'll touch really what you were talking about there, Debbie. And so, right, Objective 1, look at our current posture of multifamily living units, see the impacts that they're having on the area. 2 is gather community data and input. So, I'd like to get some surveys out there, see specifically, why is there such a negative opinion on apartments right now? It's not because they're called apartments. There has to be some sound underlying reasoning. And then 3 is the implementation of that. And so, if we deem that rezoning is maybe necessary in some areas, that'd be a perfectly acceptable form of outcome. I think others might be the way we prioritize what we do with our city funds. I think we're already next year moving some more into our roads, as that's been an issue with increased traffic, creating wear and tear on those. But once again, the intent is the outcome of it needs to be something tangible. It can't just be on paper. It can't just be a plan. It needs to lead to action. And whether that's zoning code changes or, projects throughout the city where we're improving infrastructure, that's really what needs to happen.
Okay. Corey?
So I obviously support a moratorium. I campaigned on it. I heard a lot of feedback, as Doug did, from residents. And it's not just about where you live and having, living in an area of O'Fallon that is, higher income. It's the traffic, right? We're bringing in all these people. There's a lot of traffic concerns. And the moratorium, it's not about opposing multifamily units. We're not saying we're stopping development. We don't want you here. Don't come to O'Fallon. That's not what we're saying at all. I think it's about ensuring that future growth is sustainable, fiscally responsible, and supported by adequate infrastructure and public services. I mean, are we thinking, are the schools going to be, are they involved in, when these developers come out here and they say we want to put this 160 plus multifamily unit in, are we talking with the school districts? Are they getting adequate data on how many children? Have there been studies done over the 10 and 20 years prior that, what is the influx of students when we do something like that? And then our police department and our other first responders, what are their response time, calls for service? Higher density areas are going to have a higher calls for service. So I think we just need to adequately look at everything across the board. And I think that it is responsible to take a pause, like Debbie said, maybe not a year, but we need to take some sort of pause and reevaluate everything as a whole before we say, let's just pop up 3 or 4 more apartment complexes with 160-plus units. I don't think that this is a bad thing. I think we need to have an open mind. I think we need to have an end game and a goal. If there was no end game here and this was just a moratorium on apartments with no conclusion that's going to impact the city for the better, then I wouldn't support it. But I think if we do our research and we collect all the data and we're really looking at this as a whole, I think that this is something that could be really good for our community and helping future residents come here and be like, you know, these roads are so nice, our schools are not at capacity, our police department responds quickly, fire and EMS, they're, you know, fully capable of getting here when we need them. So I don't think that this is a bad thing. I think we just need to take a pause, evaluate everything, and we're not saying no forever, just for now.
And Corey, I can tell you, Fort Zumwalt does have the documentation on the apartments of how many kids, and I can tell you, it ain't many. It's not many for kids. Now, I'm not saying there's none. It's not like a 160-unit single-family home subdivision. It's very low of kids coming out of the apartments. And to Debbie's point, if we can go get the owners of those R3 and R4 folks, I really hate for a government to tell a property owner what they can do with their property and how they want it rezoned. And the driving range is a perfect example. That thing has been zoned since the 90s. You know, if the owner would come and say, yeah, I want to rezone it to R1, I mean, that, to me, I don't want government telling him, saying, sorry, but yeah, that's been zoned since the 90s, but we're gonna make it to R1. I can't have a little heartburn on that. But if we can go to those owners of those pieces of property and says, we would really like for you to upgrade your zoning. I just hate involuntary annexations. I don't like them. Voluntary, I like. Involuntary, I don't like. But if we could get, I really don't like having people, I mean, it's just like if you own your own house and you want to paint it a certain color, somebody's going to tell you, no, you can't paint it that color. Hey, it's a slippery slope. And to Corey's point, I think we could do what you're asking without doing the moratorium. It's just my thought.
Mayor, you didn't let me slip in a little joke there that I'm on an HOA board, so I take the painting thing very, very personally.
Okay, Debbie?
And I agree with you. I don't want to see the government overreach. But at the same time, if somebody comes next month and decides they want to put apartments on the driving range and it meets the requirements, our hands are tied. We can't say no.
Understood.
And so, yeah, it was zoned that back in the 90s, but look at all the development that's gone around there since then. The high school wasn't even there, I don't think, in the 90s. So to put, it wasn't.
No way.
So to put now, you know, apartments across the street or those beautiful homes that are sitting there in Turtle Creek, it doesn't fit. So in some of these situations, this would give us an opportunity to evaluate the areas that have been developed up and the zonings don't match the current area.
All right, Mr. O'Keefe, I'm going to ask you a question here. And to Debbie's point, if they come in and meet all the requirements, we can still deny them if it's going to increase the traffic, if it's going to whatever, as long as we have a reason why we deny it. Is that true or false?
If it's a conditional use and we examine it under the standards for conditional uses, and those are the criteria, any conditional use application that does not demonstrate its compliance with the standards can be rejected.
But on a straight R3 zoning, not a conditional use.
If we can impose conditions that require remediation of the imposition that they're creating, so we can require road work.
Okay. Mr. Woods?
Yeah, just the driving range in particular, not a conditional use, but it's a PUD. So we would, that's our R3 PUD. So that'd be an area plan, final plan, that's the whole, that's public hearings, that's city council approval on that, so. It's not, it's not straight.
PUD is a rezoning, which is a legislative discretion.
Well, it's already zoned.
It's already zoned.
R3 PUD.
Yeah.
It's already zoned that way,
It's
but
already zoned that
there's,
way. But there's a different, it's not just a straight site plan.
yeah.
Yeah, like,
We have more control over it than just the straight R3. Go ahead, Debbie.
But they come in and we can just flat out tell them no, even though they make the requirements and it's,
I think the PUD is a lot more subjective. It's not a straight, like a site plan, I agree with what you're saying. If it meets the code and all that, we have to approve it. Preliminary plat is the same way, but a PUD, I don't view that way.
That's correct.
well, and in the case of the one on Highway P, I don't think it was a PUD, it was a straight R3.
I would believe it was straight R3.
So-
I'm not, that's true, straight R3.
I just know there's some areas around the city that was zoned that way 20, 30 years ago, and they don't necessarily fit what our comprehensive plan is now. So I think this would give us an opportunity to look at those areas and maybe see if there's some changes that can be made.
Okay.
I've got nothing
Boyer?
else, Mayor. Oh,
All right, there's 14 unique owners of these 19 plots of land. Have we had any conversation around rezoning with them? Not saying we're coming in to force it, but we can have that conversation, right?
Well, we can have that conversation, so I truly doubt that we've had conversations with those owners. To me, as Debbie said, these things have probably been zoned R3 since before you were born.
I'm not that young.
But, as I said, maybe, councilmen for each one of those, wherever they're at, if you have those owners, then you can go have a conversation with them and see what, they may be for it. They may not even know what they're zoned at.
Good point. So we have the ability to go and have these conversations ourselves.
I wouldn't see why not. Doug?
I've got nothing else to add unless anybody wants to bring up any additional questions, concerns. Certainly, I think I can be flexible with the timeline in the bill language or any other changes that anybody on the council wants to propose between now and, I guess, 2 weeks.
Well, and since we're missing 3 councilmen right now, maybe we have that discussion at the workshop, when we approve of the agenda, anything on the council agenda the folks want to talk about, maybe we discuss that and let the other 3 have their say and may have to tweak it one way or the other.
Okay, we can certainly work it, I think, in the meantime.
Yep. Anybody else?
Are you-
Steve?
Sorry. Through the process, it does go to P and Z
Yes.
first, correct?
That's, I believe it's in section.
I just know the last time we did this, it skipped some steps and needs to follow the correct
Yeah,
process.
it goes in, it's in section 2 that's got to go through P and Z, so.
Awesome.
I think what Doug's plan was be first reading in 2 weeks,
First reading in 2 weeks,
and then it goes to P and Z.
and then it'll
Then it
come
come back
back
to
to us. And there's actually 3 weeks between our next council meeting and then the first one in August, the way the calendar works out. So there's time, and Mayor, or Mr. O'Keefe, correct me if I'm wrong here, but we can make modifications to the language after the first reading.
Yes, sir.
We need to figure out anything between that, as long as they're not substantial.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Brian?
You are adding the senior housing amendment, is that correct? Or was that just
Would you
looking for
like
us
me
to see?
I mean, I'm happy to add it. I think we certainly can provide seniors some relief with that if something comes up in the next year.
David?
Yeah, I guess I have a question on the process of that. So I believe this requires a public hearing, right?
Yes.
Kevin? Yeah. So should we plan on doing that public hearing on P and Z for the first August meeting?
You don't think do you have time to get the publication out?
Oh, yeah. I would just need to know soon. I think,
Is it 15 days?
yeah, maybe before, it might be before.
Yeah, because it's got to be, what, 15 days in the public?
Yes, sir.
Published? So, yeah, you're going to put it on the August P and Z meeting, then it needs to be published.
Okay, this reminded me of one follow-up with the senior housing. So in effect, we would utilize a senior overlay to provide that relief. To make something have a senior overlay district, is that an action on council? Or how does that overlay get applied to a parcel?
Yeah, that's via conditional use permit, so that does go to P and Z, and they give a recommendation to the council. So that does go to council.
Okay, and then same thing, like, let's say if they were going to potentially reverse it, so game the system, get it in as a senior housing, and then try to remove it, it would still have to go back through council to remove a senior overlay?
And change that to just a straight apartment? Yeah, I guess I need to think through that.
The senior overlay projects require a deed restriction to permanently limit occupancy for qualifying residents, and that could only be removed by permission of the city council, which is in the city's broadest legislative discretion. I think it'd be pretty hard to back up that bus.
Thank you, I agree.
Okay, anybody else? All right, moving on. Melissa? Community Development Block Grant, fiscal year 2026 to 2030. Melissa?
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for your time tonight. For those of you I have not yet met, my name is Melissa Hoffman, and I am the Public Assistant Specialist here at the city. And I'm here this evening to present to you the proposed next 5-year Consolidated Plan and Fiscal Year 2026 Annual Action Plan for the Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG programs. Just a little bit of some background information. CDBG funding is provided by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and is one of the longest running programs. It's designed to help local communities with community development needs. All projects must be designed to principally benefit low to moderate income households. And the city has been an entitlement community since 2004, if you can believe that. These are the national objectives. So all CDBG assisted activities must be eligible as specifically defined in the regulations and meet one of 3 following national objectives: benefit low to and moderate income persons, aid in the prevention or elimination of slum and blight, or meet a need having a particular urgency. With the low to moderate category, that's the one that we primarily focus on. The objective is met if the activity meets one of 4 subcategories: area benefit, limited clientele, housing, and jobs. So with OFallon specifically, we focus on limited clientele activities and housing activities. When we talk about limited clientele activities, an example of that is the activity has an income eligibility requirement. And then, of course, with housing, an example of that is rehabilitation of owner-occupied units. With the slum and blight category, we don't have any areas in OFallon that would meet the definition of this objective. We don't have any areas that are in a state of decline or have substandard buildings. And then with the urgent need category, this is a rarely used category. Examples of this would be major catastrophes when the need is great and no other funding is available or it's exhausted. And usually in catastrophic events, SEMA or FEMA would step in and provide assistance with those needs. Okay. There we go. Okay. As mentioned previously, there are income limits that are established by HUD and are updated yearly. These are the most recent figures as of June 1st. HUD includes all persons that are living in the household. So even if you have a friend or family member that is temporarily staying with you, they are counted in that household size. So we look at that 80% area median income. So if you look at, for an example, a household of 4, their gross income would have to be at or below $90,800. All right, so every 5 years, grantees are required to complete a new consolidated plan for the next 5 years. This plan serves as a strategic plan on how we plan to address identified needs in the community with CDBG funding over a 5-year time period. This is a multi-step process that comprises of citizen participation, consultation with social service agencies, nonprofits, and other local governments, and also looks at experience needs and what we are currently doing. We take that feedback and formulate a needs assessment and identify top priorities, formulate goals, and assign projects and activities to those goals. In strategic planning, we start with the need, break it down to a goal, break it down to a project, break it down to an activity. When we receive our federal notice of funding allocation, we create an annual plan with programs and activities that directly correlate to these projects and goals. We come to council to present those to you and to seek approval and feedback to proceed with the plan. At the end of the program year, we then create a consolidated annual and performance evaluation report, or CAPER, and that outlines our accomplishments and expenditures and reports on our progress to meet those goals that are identified in the plan. We also come to council to present this report to you and keep you updated on the progress. Something new with this consolidated plan, in previous years, HUD has required grantees to complete an analysis of impediments to fair housing choices to include with their consolidated plan submission. Under the new administration, grantees are still required under the Fair Housing Act to affirmatively further fair housing. However, the analysis of impediments itself was not required. So part of the consultation process is reaching out to our social service agencies and nonprofits to understand what are they seeing in the community, what services are most needed. As you might imagine, the priorities have not changed from the last 5 years. The city has already been working to address some of those priorities and will continue to do so in the new 5-year plan. Housing has been and continues to be the #1 priority in the community, not just here in O'Fallon, but in the county in general. Identified needs include workforce housing, more affordable rental units, lack of home ownership opportunities for working families, senior-friendly housing, and more landlords willing to accept housing choice, formerly Section 8, vouchers. O'Fallon has continued to work with several commercial and residential developers to provide housing for the growing population and improve the quality of life for the citizens. These developments include senior living facilities, independent retirement communities, villas, and income-based senior complexes that are located throughout the city. Additionally, several developers have focused on creating single-family housing communities with a variety of housing stock, combining townhomes and smaller footprint single-family homes with larger, more expansive family homes, creating multiple price points into a single neighborhood. Others have proposed the creation of neighborhoods with smaller lots, which is a creative attempt to offer attainable housing while working within existing city zoning requirements. Also identified was the preservation of existing homes through rehabilitation activities that would keep residents in safe and decent housing. O'Fallon recognizes these activities revitalize neighborhoods, increase property values, and ensure housing is accessible and provides a suitable living environment. Rehabilitation activities helps to reduce the cost burden of low to moderate income households to properly maintain and repair necessary components to their homes, which often can take the back burner to other urgent household needs. Transportation was also identified as a need, especially with rising costs. Even if someone has a vehicle and can drive, it's hard for them to meet that need and pay for other bills. Transportation for seniors was also noted, especially for access to medical needs and other essential living services. O'Fallon previously offered 2 transportation programs, the STAR, which was the Senior Transportation and Rides, and the Disabled Transportation Assistance Program. After COVID, the STAR program ceased operations, and staff quickly responded by offering a new transportation program that encompasses seniors, those with disabilities, and adding the low-income persons as well. Throughout the years, the program has seen some changes, an effort to sustain the program, primarily because the needs of our community exceeds our funding. There is a federal cap on public services, which is at 15% of our allocation. While we recognize that this program is not a comprehensive solution, we do spend every dollar we can towards transportation. Homelessness was also identified, prevention-focused services to reduce homelessness, and supportive services like case management. The city is committed to partnering with area nonprofit organizations and social service agencies and provides funding to the Community Council and coordinated entry for case management services and the Fragile Families Initiative to support our most vulnerable neighbors. Saints Joachim and Ann, Care Services currently administers our emergency homeless prevention program, which provides financial assistance for rent, mortgage, and utilities to prevent eviction, foreclosure, and shutoff. This is also considered a public service activity and as such is subject to that 15% federal cap. As stated previously, the city has already been working on addressing the priorities with the community, and we want to keep going. We would like to continue to offer our ever popular home repair programs, which address defective, malfunctioning, or deteriorating components of homes. The interior repair program is structured as a 5-year interest-free forgivable home loan up to $7,500 that addresses interior needs such as HVAC replacement, electrical, plumbing, and energy efficiency. The program requires the homeowner to remain in the home during that 5-year time period. They cannot move, transfer ownership, or borrow against the equity in their home. If they do, they are subject to repayment for the amount that they have borrowed. Otherwise, after that 5-year time period, the loan is forgiven. The exterior home repair program is structured as a one-time grant up to $10,000, and that would address exterior needs, so aging roofs, siding, dangerous tree removal. And the mobile home repair program is also structured as a one-time grant up to $3,000, and that addresses specific mobile home needs, so skirting, electrical, plumbing, and that can be both interior and exterior. We would like to continue to offer the interior repair as a loan and the exterior as a grant so that residents can apply for both programs. We also keep them structured that way because we have usually more funding available for interior projects. And since those address more of the health and safety aspects, we want to ensure we don't expend more funding for exterior, and then if we have an interior need, we can't address it properly because we've expended more funding for exterior programs. With our public services activities, we would like to continue to offer the transportation program for necessary medical appointments within St. Charles County. Residents may qualify by age, being at least 62 years of age, or by income, or by disability. They just have to meet one of those requirements, and then, of course, being a resident of O'Fallon. We would also like to continue to offer the Emergency Homeless Prevention Program, which offers financial assistance for rent, mortgage, or utilities to prevent eviction, foreclosure, and shutoff. The council has approved us up to $1,500 per household and cannot be used for more than 3 consecutive months' worth of assistance needs. As mentioned previously, public services are capped at 15% of our total allocation. Several grantees, including O'Fallon, believe that the public services cap needs to be raised lifted or raised at the very least to meet the growing needs of the expanding community. The National Community Development Association, of which we are a member of, has also been advocating for this, but to no avail. Administration and planning is also subject to a federal cap of up to 20% of our total allocation. This covers a portion of salary for overall grant administration and management, as well as travel and training, membership dues, office supplies, and publication fees. The city is a part of the St. Louis County Home Consortium, and as such, we are eligible for home funds. So these funds are not held here. They are held with St. Louis County, but we can allocate how we would like those funds to be used. And so we would like to continue with our down payment assistance program and our affordable rental opportunities. The down payment assistance program helps eligible home buyers who meet the income requirements that were shown earlier from HUD by providing up to $10,000 in the form of an interest-free 5-year forgivable loan to be used towards down payment and or closing costs on a home within O'Fallon city limits. Homeowners must complete home buyer education and one-on-one counseling provided by a partnering housing counseling agency. And as housing prices continue to rise in O'Fallon, This program can help low to moderate income home buyers secure a home by dropping the overall price tag and helping educate home buyers regarding finances and home ownership. There is a housing cost limit, which is established by HUD. So for our community, it's $285,000. And as of Friday, July 3rd, there were 5 single-family homes, 13 condos, and 2 townhomes available at or below that price point here in O'Fallon. We would also like to continue with the affordable rental activities. This program utilizes repurposed down payment funds to be used for a subrecipient to purchase and rehabilitate affordable housing units in O'Fallon, that to then be turned around to offer rental for low to moderate income families in O'Fallon. They would also receive case management services to ensure housing stability and be able to offer affordable rental housing. So for fiscal year 2026, this is our allocation amount, $349,403. And these are the proposed uses of those CDBG funds. And these programs and projects are the city's attempt to continue to meet the identified needs within the community. Much of O'Fallon is single-family homes, and the CDBG funds will be used to ensure that the existing housing stock remains safe and accessible for residents, while also providing much-needed transportation services for residents to get access to their medical appointments, and providing financial assistance to agencies to keep residents in their home and off the streets. CDBG funds will be used to work hard for O'Fallon's population that is aging, living at or below poverty level, and or is disabled. And as these vulnerable populations increase, the importance of housing affordability, accessibility, preservation, homeless prevention, and transportation becomes increasingly more vital. We are currently in our public comment period that ends on July 16th. So if you have any comments or suggestions or anything that you would like for me to include with the final submittal to HUD, please feel free to email me or stop by the office, and I will ensure that those comments get delivered to HUD. And I think I've spoken enough, so thank you all very much for your time.
Melissa, good job. Any questions for Melissa? Great job.
Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your evening.
Next is Ms. Boschert, new personnel request.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm Vicki Boschert. I'm the Finance Director, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I did provide you with a handout of the positions that I will be going over so that you could actually see what positions it is that we're requesting and what those dollar amounts entail. I would like to point out in the last 2 years, we have added 1 net new position to our full-time count. So we currently have 504 full-time employees, and 2 years ago we had 503. So as you know, we have really been diligent about not trying to add new positions because we know that there is a cost that is a forever cost when we do that. So anytime that we review positions, we take it very seriously. We review it with the department, we review it with Mike to make sure that this really is a needed position. Originally, these positions were requested with the fiscal year 2026 budget. At that time, the sales tax was trending downward, which is not where we want to see that go. Sales tax makes up about 42% of the general fund, so we saw that as an issue and possibly not able to fund it. So we were told at that time that we were going to review these positions at mid-year, hence why I'm here. We did end last year with a 1.5% decline in sales tax, so that would be fiscal year 2025 over 2024. This year, so far, it has been coming in much better. So upon reviewing the sales tax for the current year, we are trending at a 5% increase over the adopted budget. A 5% increase is approximately $900,000, just to put that in perspective. The positions that we would like to consider adding at mid-year and are requesting is the IT desktop support specialist, the revenue manager for the finance department, an employee relations advisor for human resources, and we'd like to take a part-time budget and procurement coordinator to full-time, and that is in the fleet division. The request that we are asking for, these departments are experiencing an increase in operational demands. We also we would like to add these positions to increase the efficiencies. All of these departments service our internal departments. IT services, the other departments, they're seeing a large increase with their work orders, with cybersecurity. Finance also has a lot of internal services, so we're kind of behind in getting some of the things that we need to get done with the other departments when they're making requests to add accounts, to do budget amendments, to add extra equipment. In addition, with human resources, they really need somebody to help with employee relations and to help make sure that we're in compliance with all of our federal laws, the Title VII Civil Rights Act, the ADA, FMLA, all of the different federal laws that they have. So this would really help relieve the workload. I know that our two departments between HR and finance are also in the middle of doing a software implementation, which is going to take quite a while, and it's really put a heavy burden on our staff in trying to get our other responsibilities completed. So we would really like to see these positions get approved. If you have any questions for me, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Mr. Snowden?
Thank you. As Mrs. Boschert said, these were all items that did not come to you last year for this year's budget. And as a matter of fact, there are two more positions that were requested last year that didn't come to you, and that is another confinement officer in the police department and another HR generalist in HR. So even still, we're doing our due diligence to make sure that we're only asking for what's the most needed additions at this time. So those two were pulled off this list before it even got to you. I think they'll both be in our budget request for 2027, or likely will be, but we did not ask for them at mid-year. Thank you.
Anybody got a problem with these? There you go.
Thank you. This will come before you in a budget amendment. So you will see this once again as a budget amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicki. Mr. Woods, review of upcoming planning and zoning commission items.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. I am going to go through some slides that we have going.
Is this going to be as short as the last 2 months?
No.
No?
We had our world record last month was only 9 minutes.
Yeah.
Good job on that. So now we're going to be in a little bit longer this time.
Mayor, can I just ask real quick, are we doing this because there's just a very large amount of items on P&Z in August, or?
We do it every month. So
Here?
Yeah. So yeah, David comes, I think it's the first meeting of the month for the following P&Z meeting.
I didn't do it last month because we didn't have
Yeah,
it.
we didn't have any.
Okay, that makes sense, because the last couple months we haven't. All right, thank you.
Yep. But yeah, usually when there's stuff, I'll do this. This first one, we do this every once in a while for temporary buildings. We've done it for classrooms over the years, but this is Trinity Metals out on West Terra. They're moving, pretty much they've sold their office to a home builder in here. There's an office here, and this is like their storage yard. And they want to, here's the office where they're at currently. They've moved out already. They want to keep the storage here, but they want to rebuild this smaller kind of storage yard office. And this building that's in the background here is in pretty bad disrepair. They want to tear it down. And before they start moving all this out, they want to put in some temporary buildings. We only allow those for a short period of time. So in the past, we've had this go through P&Z to give them. They're asking for a year to a year and a half to have those out there. So that'll be on the agenda.
So are we giving them a year, or are we giving them a year and a half?
I forget what he asked for. I told him to put in writing what you want, but I think when I talked to him on the phone, it was 12 to 18 months, but we'll get that clarified.
Okay.
Yep. It's possible, he did also say they might come back and want to build a new building here in the future, but that's not set in stone. Actually, just right next door, so this is a little bit further west, so this is the property we were just talking about. We've got an outlot on the corner of Brook Crossing and West Terra. They want to build, it's a vacant lot, they want to build a new salon building there. There's the elevations for that, and pretty simple site plan. West Terra's down here, this is the road going back, this would be a parking lot, new salon building. Go in there.
Is that a hairdresser? Is it, David?
Oh, yep,
Salon dressing, is that just a hairdresser, or?
yeah. Mhm.
Okay. I thought there was a new title for a building.
Oh, sorry,
Okay.
yep. Yeah, it even, it said somewhere hair salon on there, but yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there you go. Hair salon.
What is that zoned?
It was C2 on that.
Yeah.
C2.
It's down in Brook Creek Crossings Court. That's all commercial. It's all commercial going down to court. Okay.
Yep. This is, we'd approved this preliminary plat a few months ago for Lombardo Homes. They want to come in now and do a display home that requires P&Z approval. That's the site location map. So this is the plan that we approved. There's been a small change. It's not enough to go back, but they've actually lost lots. So when we approved it originally, it had 30 lots. We've got construction plans in that engineering's looking at, under review. It's 28 lots. So they've kind of spread it out, lost 2 lots. But they want to come in and build a display house here and a parking lot. And that's what this is showing here. This is Phoenix Parkway out there. So that's just a P&Z plan to review and approve. Here's a recent one, Caballo Farms Edition. We approved the area plan back in May, maybe June, just this little bit here. Caballo Farms, the original bigger one is down that way. So this is part of the process with the PUD to come back in with their final plan. This is what we have. It's pretty much, there's been no change since the area plan was approved. It's just a matter of going through this process. That's just the blow up of the lots and the layout. Landscaping plan. But really no changes from what we had seen before. This is another one we've seen in the past. These are all kind of flashbacks. So this is off of really Mexico Road. This has got a 1311 Governor's Court address, which is kind of odd. It might actually end up changing. But this is, we had approved this probably last November as senior housing. This is one parcel, senior housing, Mexico Road, Bryan. Walgreens is right there. This is the plan that was approved before. It was one big building, taking up this whole stretch from Governor's Run over to kind of the Walgreens access. So that's changed now. They did not get approval from the state to do this. They needed funding. And so they've coming in, that's another shot. But now they're wanting to reduce it. So this is that same stretch, but the senior housing would just be on this part, and there'd be a commercial outlot left to the west, and then Walgreens. So that's 1.5 acres for future commercial, which we've had a few meetings with somebody that's looking at that for some retail. So we'll see if that comes in. We've been talking to them about having the shared access go through, which they're kind of showing there's probably going to be a new entrance up here onto Mexico. But this, right now, we're really just talking about this site plan, but there'd be a plat to create the 2 lots. That's a blow up of the plan. Okay, here's another one. 26 lot subdivision. They're calling this, for some reason, I don't like the name, the Junction. This is at a dead end of Westridge, railroad tracks, civic parks up here. And we've had different people looking at this over the years. And now we're looking at single-family subdivision. It's zoned R1 currently. There's actually a stub street. We've had, probably 10, 15 years ago, we had a plan for a road coming in this way, tying in, but now they're proposing coming in this way. And this is turned the other way, but the railroad tracks is over here, so this is where that dead end was, and that road would be extended down. Cul-de-sac, 26 lots. There's a lot of grading on this. This kind of shows these darker lines is showing where they would grade. This would be a new detention basin, grading here. There's a sewer line that goes through the middle that they'd have to relocate. So there's a lot of site work here. We would have a condition. We did this similar on Enclave of Brook Hollow, because the only way really in and out of here is through a good stretch of Westridge. So we would have them document that and escrow if there's any damage for construction. And then these are just the building elevations, which I'll scroll through pretty quick. This is a new home builder. I don't know if they've done anything in our city. But that's what they're proposing there. And then we'll have something, the next item on the agenda is the Chapter 400 revisions, and I guess like we talked earlier, we'll add the moratorium on there too, to have that on the agenda. Is there any questions on that?
Mayor?
Go ahead, Doug.
Real quick, Dave, the development off Westridge, the one you just had up there, will that be coming through as a PUD?
No.
No? Okay.
That's zoned R1 single family, and these lots are all over 10,000 square foot.
Wow, okay.
So in theory, this would just show up on the council agenda as a committee and commission report.
Thank you.
Yeah, we met with the developer on building the O, and they tried, but we told them no.
I like it. It's music to my ears.
So, any other questions on the P and Z side? Okay.
Okay, the other thing for the next item, right?
Yep.
Is the zoning code update that I wanted to kind of daylight before we got too far down the road. Some things we're talking about wanting to do. We want to change what we allow in our industrial zoning. We want to reserve and preserve what we have zone industrial. And we've got a lot of areas that are being used right now in our industrial districts for commercial. And we have recreational uses that are kind of the biggest cause of what's being placed in industrial. It would not prohibit existing businesses. They would be continue to operate, but anything new, if this would go through, would no longer be allowed, or maybe would require a conditional use permit in industrial zone districts. So we have an Appendix A in our zoning code, and it lists all the different land uses. And right here is an excerpt of the land uses we want to propose to change. And in particular, a lot of this is related to athletics, but really taking it out of I-2 kind of throughout. We would propose taking out banks out of I-2, changing commercial recreation to a conditional use in I-1. There's been a few instances where, industrial parking is pretty, it doesn't require a lot of parking for industrial. We've had one in particular where it had volleyball games on the weekend and the parking was a question. So I think having it as a conditional use, we'd have more ability to look at that going through the city. Convenience stores, we would still allow those in I-1, but not in I-2. Just kind of some other things. Kennels boarding, we would take that out of industrial. And the other one, storage, I guess the very bottom, we would make that a conditional use permit in I-1. So that's the changes we're proposing in the Appendix A of the zoning code. And this is a map. Currently, we have 13 recreational uses that's zoned or on property zoned industrial. We've kind of got this grouping up here, different uses. They would be able to stay. We wouldn't allow anything further if this code would change, or maybe it would require a conditional use permit. So I just wanted to show you what we have currently. The other change we're proposing is adding some additional landscaping requirements in around the perimeter. So on this slide, everything in black is our current language. We would propose this new paragraph in blue requiring additional shrubs around the perimeter of a parking lot or drive aisles when it's adjacent to residential or right-of-way that's adjacent to residential. And I have a drawing here that kind of shows that. This is Lee's Chicken. So here's Bryan Road. This down here is the next, like a blow-up. But here's Bryan Road, White Magnolia. There's a private road. Lee's Chicken is currently under construction. We would propose, there's residential, there's an apartment complex here. We would propose this, under this code as written, we would require additional landscaping in that area. This is a blow-up showing the shrubs that would be required. Currently, we just require the trees you see there. But the way it's written, that's how we would add additional landscaping when you have that kind of scenario on commercial developments. And we're proposing language to make the senior overlay have more, I guess, review of that by the residents and also the city, changing the language in there. The blue is the new language. This next section, I spent about 20 minutes. Kevin explained this change to me. Took him 20 minutes to say we're changing and to or.
Is that all?
And that's all we're doing.
Is that all?
Yeah, all right.
I was proud of that. I was afraid I was going too fast.
We were able to figure out what you said, and that's what we got. And we've got the site plan appeal language. We have an aggrieved party that this is something we have for conditional use permits and rezoning. We want to add the same language for site plans, so we've added in that section there that discusses that. And that's my last one.
Okay. So if I have a batting cage or whatever, and then the I-1 or I-2, whatever you said,
Yeah.
if this goes through, it will be, they'll still be able to operate it as long as they keep that business, or are they going to have to come in for a conditional use?
If it's there already, it would remain. Nothing would change.
The only thing is if they move out
And if it's closed for
6 months.
right.
Okay. Because I thought it said something in there that they'd have to come for a conditional use permit.
If a new one, that is true, like the commercial recreation, right now would be like a batting cage, we would probably call that commercial recreation. That one, if it's zoned I-1, rather than just being permitted with a business license, it would have to come through as a conditional use.
Okay. Questions? Scott?
So David, the purpose of this is to have more industrial use areas for the city, is that correct?
Yeah, just preserve what we have, because I've been talking with Patrick, and he gets requests for people looking for industrial properties, and then when we have one taken up by, a recreation use that doesn't really have a lot of the tax base that we're looking for, that's kind of a loss, we think, to the city. So we'd rather have industrial in there than recreation, which could be done in commercial. And our industrial is very limited. We're really we haven't zoned anything too industrial. I can't even think of the last time. It's been a long time.
Can you go to that map real quick again, too?
Yeah.
Push your button.
The orange is industrial zoned?
Sorry, it's probably hard to see. It's really more of the gray, lighter grays, darker grays. Yeah, the oranges in here are that's not it. It's really just the the lighter grays.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, mostly the industrial is right along East Terra, all this in here, and then a lane, and then off of Hoff. And we have a little industrial park kind of down in here, midpoint, that goes the back way into Turtle Creek. There's a little industrial park there.
Okay. Anybody else?
Real quick, just to remind me, on the chart you had up with the condition, the Cs and the Ps, anything that C is a conditional use permit and a P is permitted, meaning they don't even need to come through us, right? They can just...
With a business, they need a business license.
Business license. Okay, thank you.
Unless it's a new construction, obviously, but if it's an existing building moving in, business license.
Okay. Anybody else? Thank you, David.
Okay.
Any other items for consideration? Seeing none, we'll see you at 7:30. I want to call the July 9, 2026 O'Fallon City Council meeting to order. Roll call, Katie.
Mayor Hennessy.
Present.
Councilmember Wexler.
Present.
Councilmember Wilcox.
Present.
Councilmember Boyer.
Present.
Councilmember Yates.
Present.
Councilmember Cascella.
Present.
Councilmember Lake.
Present.
Councilmember Taylor.
She's excused.
Councilmember Spencer.
Present.
Councilmember Cook.
Present.
Councilmember Palmer.
He's excused. Everyone, please stand if able for the invocation by Police Chaplain Michael Atherton, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Yates.
Pray with me. Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight. We thank you for the opportunity we have to assemble in this place to conduct business on behalf of the good citizens of this city. Father, we pray for our council. We pray for our mayor, our city officials who have helped to make this city the great city it is. We pray, Father, you would give them great wisdom as they deliberate on a variety of decisions that come before them. Father, we thank you for our first responders throughout this community who work tirelessly to ensure that this is a safe place and a great place to raise our children and grandchildren respectively. Father, we pray that you would watch over and protect them in all things. Father, we hope that we as a people, as a society, honor you in how we live our lives, that we work together and work in unity to help make this a better place to live. Father, guide us in all things. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Folks, you have an agenda in front of you. What's the pleasure?
Motion to approve, Cascella.
Second, Wexler.
Motion by Councilman Cascella, second by Councilman Wexler. Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. A couple things on the presiding officer. First, we have Denise Childress. Denise? Has some very important information to put out.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I want to thank, get this set up right. I want to thank you for the invitation to be here tonight and for allowing me to address you about some new resources that the court has for victims of abuse, including filing an order of protection online. As Mayor said, I am Judge Denise Childress. I am one of your associate judges in St. Charles County, and I'm one of the 2 judges who have a dedicated docket for orders of protection that are not associated with family law cases. So what is an order of protection? Colloquially, we call that a restraining order. We have the Missouri Adult Abuse Act and the Child Protection Orders Act, which give the court authority to issue restraining orders. This is a citation to the black letter of the law, so you could see the definitions, the elements, and what is required to be found for a judge to have the authority to issue a restraining order. The Missouri Adult Abuse Act provides that relief may be sought by any person who has been subject to domestic violence by a present or former family or household member, or who has been the victim of stalking or sexual assault. The Child Protection Orders Act provides for the same relief, just for child victims of domestic abuse. How do you go about applying for an order of protection? Traditionally, you go down to your county courthouse. That's your beautiful county courthouse down there on 2nd Street. You would appear in person between the hours of 8 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. The clerks have forms that are created by OSCA, the Office of State Courts Administration, for you to fill out. It's basically kind of a checkbox format, and there's instructions for how to complete that. Most of the petitions are filed pro se, meaning you don't need a lawyer to file them. The clerk will swear you in, and so that we know that the petition and the testimony is sworn. A judge, at any time in St. Charles County, there's one judge that's on call, the duty judge. In fact, I have the football tonight. It's over there. That's why I'm a little extra tired today. But a judge will review the petition same day and make a decision, one of 3 things. Either 1, there is an immediate and present danger to the petitioner, in which case a restraining order, a temporary restraining order, will issue pending a hearing. 2, there's not an immediate and present danger, but the elements have been pled, and so there will be a hearing for you to be heard and see whether or not a judge will issue a full order of protection. The third option is the evidence isn't there, the elements haven't been pled, doesn't meet the statute, and it will be dismissed or denied. That would happen same day as long as you submit it in person before 4:30. You then have to appear to pick up your order with your ID, so we make sure it's getting to the right person. Because these are confidential cases, the clerks can't tell you over the phone if it's issued, so you do have to come down to the courthouse to see which of those 3 decisions has been made. So what's changed? Why am I here? About a year ago, in order to increase the safety to our vulnerable citizens here in St. Charles County, we implemented an online system for individuals who may just not be able to get away. And so now you can submit your petition or your request for an order of protection online. It functions much the same way as a traditional filing. You can still file in person. You can obtain the forms online. A clerk will call you to swear you in over the phone. You submit them digitally for a judge to review. A judge will review them and decide same day if it's filed before 4:30 p.m. or next day when they come in at 8 a.m. if it's filed after 4:30, because of course with online filing, that's 24/7 access. The judge will make that decision. You will come in person. Again, you do still have to come to pick up the order because we have to ID you to make sure that this isn't abused, that we are, in fact, granting a petition for the person who is filing it. So I wanted to come here and just step you through the process so that your constituents can be aware and you can share the information. If you go to stccountycourts.com, that's your St. Charles County Courts website. Up here in the right-hand corner, there's this More tab. You click on that, it brings you down to Order of Protection. You click on that. First and foremost, if you are in immediate danger, call 911. So make sure you always talk to your constituents about that. If this was put in place for individuals who may not be able to get away from their abusers to file the petition, so our IT department shaped this website with safety forefront in their mind. What I like is this circle's not on the actual website. This is for demonstration purposes. But if you hit Control W anytime, you can exit the site quickly. So if your abuser enters a room with you, there's that safeguard. You also can hit Control Shift Delete to erase your browser history, which brings this up. You can erase your browsing history, your download history, things of that nature. There are instructions on the website, so you don't have to memorize this presentation, but you do have to download one of the petitions, and so if it's, that might create a safety risk because it will go on your hard drive and you could delete it at a later time, but you have to be aware of that. This website also provides links to additional resources outside of the court system that our vulnerable population may find helpful. Here, this is just lower on that same page. Here's where you download the adult order of protection packet and the child order of protection packet. How do you submit it? You can use your regular email to submit it to the clerks at this email address, which you can find on the website. However, again, safety in mind, you can register for a secure email through the court system. I went ahead and did that for demonstration purposes. You use your personal email address, you fill out all this information, create a password. There's one touch you're going to get back to your personal email address, and that's the activation request. However, it's meant to not look like it's coming from the court system. So again, safety in mind. It brings you into this secure portal. You create a new message. You go back, copy, paste the email into the two. You upload your file from your hard drive. This is when, once you hit send, you can go back and delete it off your hard drive. We don't want you to keep a copy. The courts will keep a copy for you. Fill out whatever you want to here, hit send, and then this is another neat feature. Once you hit send, it's gone. It doesn't stay in your sent folder. It doesn't look like you sent it. This can create some confusion. Sometimes we get double filing, but you'll know that it's been filed because the second touch you'll get is a clerk will call you to, again, swear you in, because if a judge is going to look at this, it has to be sworn. You log out, and you're done. So I wanted to also issue a special thanks for the implementation of this. We couldn't have done this without Judge Tricia McCullough, who is one of our other associate judges here in St. Charles County. She's Division 6, I'm Division 7. She shouldered a lot of this. Crystal Masterson is our manager of child support ex parte small claims, as well as Alicia No, our small claims ex parte supervisor. Matt Dennison is our IT guy. Special thanks to the technology committee, and then of course the St. Charles County Court and Bonk, who voted for us to implement this system. Thank you again for your time. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Questions for the judge?
Thank you.
Thank you for the information. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you so much.
Next on Mr. Yates and Mr. Boyer, you want me to meet down front?
It's not their first rodeo.
You can make a double row. All right, Ryan, go ahead, bud.
All right, awesome. This is sustained excellence. This is what you're looking at right here. This program here, the last 6 years, they've won state title 4 times. All 6 years, Final Four. 3 years ago, we had a foreign exchange student. She got to be on the team. It was so much fun. They ended as champions as well. It was such a cool thing. But here's a proclamation highlighting all of you guys' what you've done this year and really everything you've done since 2020. Here's your proclamation. Whereas the elected officials proudly recognize the Fort Zumwalt South High School 2025-2026 girls soccer team for their outstanding dedication, discipline, and talent, as well as the remarkable achievement in securing the MSHSAA Class 3 Girls Soccer State Championship title. And whereas this year, the Bulldogs reached the Final Four for the 6th consecutive season, demonstrating remarkable skill, consistency, and dedication throughout the 6-game state playoff run. The team outscored their opponents 28-2, culminating in an outstanding overall season record of 22-3. And whereas the Fort Zumwalt South soccer team has a total of 23 members, including 6 seniors, 8 juniors, 4 sophomores, and 5 freshmen. And whereas, in addition to winning the Missouri State Championship, the team earned runner-up honors in both the STL Champions League and the GAC Central Conference, further exemplifying their competitive excellence. And whereas the extraordinary achievement was made possible through the outstanding leadership of head coach Leanne Sanders, assistant coaches Tyler Muehling, Lexi Heck, Ashlyn Smith, Katie Stickman, Heidi Dressner, and the dedication of every student athlete with special recognition to the senior class of Mary Morrison, Kate McClanahan, Elena Ward, Skylar Atizena, Bridget Herwick, and Maddie Feldworth for their leadership, commitment, and lasting contributions to the program. And whereas this team has represented its school, district, and community with integrity, sportsmanship, perseverance, and excellence in both on the field and in the classroom, serving as an inspiration to future generations of student athletes. Now, therefore, the mayor, along with the city council of the city of O'Fallon, recognize the Fort Zumwalt South High School 2025-2026 girls soccer team for their legacy of excellence and extend our heartfelt congratulations to their unforgettable championship season. Congratulations.
Good evening. My name is Representative Dave Hinman, and I am here with a resolution. Representative Wendy Hausman is the other representative that is responsible for most of the families and students for South High, but she couldn't make it tonight, so I will do this for the both of us. Whereas the members of the Missouri House of Representatives proudly pause to recognize an outstanding group of Missouri high school students who have enjoyed considerable success through steadfast commitment to the highest standards of excellence. And whereas the Fort Zumwalt South High School girls soccer team is to be commended for once again capturing first place at the Missouri State High School Activities Association Class 3 District 2 Girls Soccer State Championship on June 6th, 2026. And whereas the Fort Zumwalt Lady Bulldogs gave their many fans good reason to cheer as they defeated the St. Michael, the Archangel Guardians 2-1 during a hard-fought battle played at the Worldwide Technology Soccer Park in Fenton, ending their season with 22-3. And whereas it's the 4th time since 2021 that the Fort Zumwalt South Lady Bulldogs took home the top trophy during its 6th Final Four appearance, the team having made history on June 3rd, 2023 by becoming the first public school in Missouri history to win 3 consecutive state championships in soccer. There now for be resolved that we, the members of the Missouri House of Representatives 103rd General Assembly, join in extending our most hearty congratulations to the Fort Zumwalt South High School girls soccer team as this proud moment of well-deserved distinction. Congratulations on behalf of the representatives.
I will. We just want to say thank you for inviting us here today. Our soccer team isn't what it is without the community around us. We have an incredible program. A lot of girls' soccer programs around the state are not able to fill 3 teams, and we're able to do that because we have an excellent group of people around us. We have a lot of girls on our C team that come out for the first time and just want to have fun. We have an excellent support staff on our JV team, and then obviously this incredible group of girls behind me, which this is probably only about half of us up here. But thank you guys so much. Thank you for your support constantly. The stands were full this time, and it was great to have that support, and I know it's a lot of family and friends that come out to support us, so thank you so much.
So, to the juniors and the sophomores and the freshmen, I expect to see you here next year. We do have a proclamation for each one of you. So, Mr. Yates has got those, and Mr. Boyer's got the regular proclamation.
Thank you.
Anyone got ahead and talk? Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, now we have some sad news, basically. So, Chief, I believe we're going to show a video, and then you're coming up. All right, so if you want to do the video.
Let's go, Poppy. He was the mix of the best of both worlds. Vegas was a phenomenal dog, not only because he incorporated the courageousness that we needed in the dog as times became a little bit more turbulent, but he also maintained that sociability and that kindness that we needed that represents all our O'Fallon dogs as well.
He's the first dog you'd want on scene. He'd find the guy to do the job, whatever he needed to do. And Vega was a great handler for him. Just, he pushed him, he'd be in the right spot at the right time to help all of us.
I think that is what bled into Vegas and what made him such a great patrol dog, is that, you know, he was just, they stayed calm under high stress and situations that that require you to make quick decisions. So yeah, ever since I got in the unit, I always looked at Matt and Vegas as, you know, somewhere where I wanted to be.
When we lose a canine partner, it's like losing a member of our family. That bond is so unique and so strong, and it's so powerful, and it's something that really we never forget. It's a bittersweet situation because this dog gives so much to our lives. He allows us so many wonderful things, and at the end of his career and at the end of the time, it's hard to think it's all over.
Our dogs just have the reputation that if they know they need a dog, they can call us, and our dogs are going to come out and perform, whether it's looking for drugs or doing security, you know, looking for bad guys, stuff like that.
We all know that day's coming, and it's always, that's the toughest part, is knowing that eventually it'll be here, but, you know, that's a hard thing to go back to. It's been 5 years since I haven't had a dog, so thinking of going to work without my dog would be tough. So
There's no bond like it. To have someone that you can always rely on, have with you. Someone by your side that you know that if I'm going to fight with somebody or if I need someone to help me, I got someone who's not going to shy away from it.
Once your dog retires, or unfortunately something like this happens, it's a huge change. You know, you're not the canine guy anymore. Your hours change a little bit, the training days change a little bit, but just support him like he's still part of the team, because he is.
By his actions, by what Matt and Vegas did on the road, it will ensure this standard of legacy from here on out, what is expected not only from O'Fallon, but also this entire area of what it takes to really have a fantastic working dog. And that's because of the benefits of Matt and Vegas and what they've done.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Tonight we honor the service of Canine Vegas and his handler, Matt Begovich, who not only lost his canine partner, but a trusted teammate, friend, and family member. The bond between a canine officer and their partner is unlike any other in law enforcement. Through countless hours of training and service, they build a level of trust that cannot be replaced. Vegas made every officer on scene safe and gave them greater confidence knowing he was on scene. On behalf of the City of O'Fallon and the men and women of the O'Fallon Police Department, thank you for your dedication to Vegas and to our community. It is our honor to present this plaque in recognition of Vegas's faithful service and the incredible partnership that you shared with us. Presented to Officer Matthew Vegovich, in grateful recognition of the extraordinary partnership you shared with Canine Vegas, whose loyalty, courage, and dedication faithfully served the O'Fallon Police Department and the citizens of O'Fallon from 2019 to 2026. Together, you exemplified the highest standards of teamwork, professionalism, and commitment to public safety. The presence of K-9 Vegas on every call brought an added sense of confidence and security to his fellow officers who knew they had a dependable partner standing behind them. As a handler and K-9 team, you are an exceptional asset to this department and to the city of O'Fallon, earning the respect and admiration of all who had the privilege of serving alongside you. Though Vegas Watch has ended, his legacy lives on through the lives he touched, the mission he accomplished, and the bond you shared. His faithful service, sacrifice, and devotion will never be forgotten. With our deepest gratitude and respect, the men and women of the O'Fallon Police Department.
And the only other thing I have on the presiding officer report, I want to thank our great staff, our volunteers for a great Heritage and Freedom Fest. We couldn't do it without the great staff, every department in this city, and all the volunteers that we had made it one of the most successful Heritage and Freedom Fest that we've had. So again, thanks to the staff, Mr. Snowden, and all of our great volunteers. We appreciate your time and effort over the 4 days. So with that, it brings us to citizens' comments. And we have one speaker, and that is Mr. Dienoff. Where's my clock? I can't find my clock.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dienoff, City Public Advocate, running for County Executive on August the 4th. And we have a great gratitude to offer for the passing of the K-9. It was a tragedy. It was unexpected, and so it's a hard act to follow the presentation that just was made. It really had an effect on me. So council members, I want to talk about the Community Development Block Grant. I feel that it's a required public hearing. You talked about it at your workshop session. It's per the federal code. It's passed by Congress. The public hearing must happen and occur before the governing body, the City Council, who are the elected officials, making the decision and voting on the appropriations. These current public hearings are happening before bureaucrats and city employees who do not have a vote in the process. This process and way of conducting public hearings must cease and change. Council, please direct staff to make these changes and hold appropriate public hearings before you, the elected officials, making the vote and the decision. Why are we not joining St. Charles County and all other county municipalities, villages, and towns who are a member of the Consolidated Urban County Plan, which is saving administration, employee duplication, and duplication of services and program administration? Over $100,000 plus benefits and pension contributions would be immediately saved and go in the hands of people who are less fortunate than you and I and who need help with community development issues. The new positions you talked about, I'll be talking about in an ordinance that's coming up on the upcoming agenda. Let's see here. Resolution A is an agreement for a firm to handle claims and risk services, a ton of fees and unknown costs when we can hire someone in-house for much less expense. How many firms were invited and asked to submit a request for proposal, or was this just another insider buddy deal? It's highly concerning. The Francis Howell School District with the Resolution B on the agenda at Union High School, located in the Board of Education headquarters, which was the old Schneider Electric office building off Technology Drive. This is a contract for a school resource officer. It's very lopsided, and it's a raw deal to both another political subdivision and the same taxpayers. The proposed contract is 100% for 10 months. Totally unacceptable. The city approval of housing
15
developments and
seconds.
population growth caused the need for additional schools. The city retains the responsibility for law enforcement, and I would ask that you send the staff back to the negotiating table and negotiate a 50-50 cost share of salary, benefits, expenses, supplies,
Mr. Dino,
uniform, and pension
time is up, sir.
contributions. Thank you.
Brings us to ward reports. Ward 2.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to start off with just thanking the entire staff for what you did this past weekend with the 4th of July. It was fabulous. You saw every single department participate. It was cool. And you saw all the community out there. You saw us coming together, a unity. It's cool. The Choral Society, I wanted to call them out. The Choral Society of St. Charles, they came out and sang. They did an awesome job. If you get a chance to see them, I would go out and watch that. A lot of talent there. The Chamber of Commerce, another successful firecracker run. Again, a lot of fun. Then I also want to thank my fellow council members for consolidating our float into one. And just thank you for just coming together. And we can show unity just like the city. We're all here together, and it was a pleasure walking with you all. Also, there's a cardboard race on the 18th of July, and the Homestead Days are on the 12th. I am done. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Yates.
Heritage and Freedom Festival. That's all there is to talk about. We all participated in that. We all had a great time. It was fun to see the city completely involved in that, and all of us up here on a float together. Boy, was that fun. 2.1 mile walk, a little hot that day, but we managed. Anyway, what a great event it was. Well done, everybody.
Ward 3.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'll echo the same thing for Heritage and Freedom Fest, especially the parade. Although it wasn't really hot in the driver's seat, I was very comfortable the whole time. For those of you that were able to watch the workshop, we had an awesome conversation up here, a little bit of a discussion regarding the moratorium. And I just want to come out clear on the record that my comment about the cowardness, that was not a direct thing towards Councilmember Leake. Towards Councilmember Link, it's just my feeling of the moratorium process, and I wanted to apologize publicly if you did take any offense to that, so thank you.
Mr. Link.
Councilman Cascella, I formally accept your apology. I'll once again echo the comments regarding the Heritage and Freedom Fest. It is actually the first one I've been to, believe it or not. So, been a resident of 11 years here in O'Fallon, and what a great event. Incredibly hot too, and I really like those shirts you gave us. They went from a light blue to a dark blue for all of us that were walking that day. So, once again, what a great event. I'm glad to be a part of it. My thanks and everything to the council as well for us all participating on the one float. I had a great time.
And since this was your first one, it has been hotter. It's been rainy. It's been nice, so you never know what you're going to get. So, and it could have been hotter. Just think of it that way. All right? Ms. Spencer, Ward 4.
Thank you, Mayor. I shockingly am also going to mention the Heritage and Freedom Fest. It was a great Independence Day weekend. I did have the opportunity to attend Heritage and Freedom Fest on both July 3rd and 4th, also my first time. And both experiences, I went on the 3rd with my kids and the 4th without them. Both experiences were memorable in their own way and definitely truly highlighted what makes our community so special. From the games to the rides to the food, the festival offered something for everyone. So if you haven't been out before, make sure you get out next year. One thing that especially stood out was the thoughtful planning that went into keeping all of our attendees safe during the extreme heat. The cooling stations, water availability, other safety measures demonstrated by our city's commitment to ensuring families could enjoy the celebration comfortably and safely. And it was so hot. And I'm hoping the mayor is wrong. that it will be hotter at any of the future ones. The highlight of my weekend was participating in the 4th of July parade. I've never been to the parade before, and I got to go to the first one as a council member, so it was an honor to be such a part of such a cherished community tradition. Seeing the streets lined with all of those families and neighbors proudly celebrating together was both inspiring and humbling. The turnout throughout the weekend is a true testament to the spirit of our city, and our residents continue to show up and support one another, and I think that speaks volumes. So a heartfelt thank you to the volunteers, city staff, public safety personnel, event organizers, sponsors, and everyone who worked behind the scenes to make this year's Heritage and Freedom Fest and 4th of July Parade such a tremendous success. Look forward to many more opportunities to celebrate alongside this amazing community. Again, and then wanted to just point out real quick, that was quite an amazing tribute to K9 Vegas. He will definitely be missed. So sorry to the O'Fallon Police Department for their loss.
Thank you. Ward 5, Ms. Cook.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll keep it short. Shout out to the city staff for a wonderful Heritage and Freedom Fest again this year. Look forward to next year.
Ward 1.
Thank you, Mayor. Ditto. That's what I got. Thank you.
Scott?
Ditto as well, but also just wanted a few things. When Brian Boyer and I talked at the Hope High graduation about doing the float together for all the city council members, that was great. I'm glad that it came together, just the unity we all showed, and just it was a great time doing that. The dunk tank afterwards, walking in the parade for 2 hours felt great, so that was a fun time, the first time ever being in a dunk tank. That was awesome. And this sincere thanks to the city, all the staff, the volunteers, our police and fire, the long hours that you guys all put in making this a great event. Been going as a resident for over 20 years, first time this side of it, and just seeing all the work that goes into it was truly amazing and just inspiring. So thank you.
Okay. City Administrator's Report, Mr. Snowden.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the contributions of a lot of staff members who are reaching milestone anniversaries this month. Building Inspector Aaron Walker, Utility Worker Lucas Sproul, Recreation Program Manager Dalton Patton, Water Division Office Manager Vicki Boyer, and Maintenance Worker 2 Logan Barklage have been with us for 5 years. Director of Economic Development Patrick McKeon, Court Clerk Nancy White, and Police Officers Jonathan Eversmeyer and Justin Egan have been a part of Team O'Fallon for 10 years. Director of Public Works Steve Bender has been part of our team for 20 years. And lastly, but certainly not least, Economic Development Specialist Patty Brown and Engineering Office Manager Julie Taylor have served our city for 25 years. So I'd like to thank all 12 of those individuals for being such an integral part of Team O'Fallon for all these years. And now let's pretend that no one else has mentioned HFF. Last weekend, the city held its 46th annual Heritage and Freedom Festival. We don't yet have attendance numbers, but there were a whole lot of people that enjoyed the family night, the country night with Low Cash and Lauren Elena, the parade on the morning of the 4th, and the music of Kansas on Rock Night. Every single person I spoke with thoroughly enjoyed themselves, and I think the event was a huge success. I want to specifically thank all of the staff and volunteers who spent so much of their time and talent making this another great success, because we couldn't make this happen without all of those great folks. And that is all I have for tonight, sir.
Thanks, sir. Brings us to old business, brings to Bill 7872. Motion for second reading.
Spencer.
Motion by Councilwoman Spencer, second.
Wexler.
Second by Councilman Wexler. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Mr. O'Keefe.
Bill number 7872, second reading and consideration for adoption. An ordinance approving a first supplemental license agreement for a city monument between the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission and the city of O'Fallon, Missouri.
Motion for final passage.
Spencer.
Motion by Councilwoman Spencer, second.
Wexler.
Second by Councilman Wexler. Questions or comments? Cast your vote.
The voting is closed.
8 yes, 0 no. 7872 passed, becomes ordinance number
7328.
7328. Thank you, Katie. Brings to Bill 7873. Motion for second reading.
Link.
Motion by Councilman Link, second.
Costello.
Second by Cascola. All in favor? Any opposed? Mr. O'Keefe.
Bill number 7873, second reading and consideration for adoption. An ordinance providing for the approval and acceptance of the dedication of streets and storm sewers, excluding detention, for maintenance by the city of O'Fallon for the streets of Caledonia, Plat 7.
Motion for final passage.
Link.
Motion by Councilman Link, second.
Costello.
Second by Cascola. Questions or comments? Cast your vote.
Voting is closed.
8 yes, 0 no. 7873 passes and becomes ordinance number
7329.
7329. Thank you, Katie. Questions or comments on the committee and commission reports? Stand as read. Questions or comments on the consent calendar? What's the pleasure?
Motion to approve, Costello.
Second, Wexler.
Motion by Cascola, second by Wexler. Council members, cast your vote.
The voting is closed.
8 yes, 0 no. The consent calendar has been approved. Brings to Bill 7874, motion to introduce.
Costello.
Motion by Cascola, second. Wexler. Second by Councilman Wexler. Councilman Cascola, please present the bill.
Thank you, Mayor. Bill number 7874, an ordinance approving an intergovernmental agreement with with St. Charles City County Library District for the provision of library services and community programs at City of O'Fallon events.
Thank you. Questions or comments on Resolution 79-2026B? Seeing none. Motion second to introduce.
Wexler.
Costello.
Councilman Wexler, second by Cascola. All in favor? Any opposed? Mr. O'Keefe.
Resolution 79-2026B, a resolution authorizing an agreement with Francis Howell School District, providing for a school resource officer.
Motion second to approve.
Wexler.
Motion by Councilman Wexler, second.
Costello.
Second by Cascola. Council members, cast your vote.
The voting is closed.
8 yes, 0 no. Resolution B has been approved. No further business. This meeting adjourned at 8:10.